that the next person is trying to bring to us. And in that way, we'll have a better understanding that it does not necessarily mean that if Nomandla is wearing a miniskirt, she is advertising her body, for sexual pleasure. It does not mean if Nomandla is, showing some skin, it's a call for me to catcall her. And these are things that, as not in my name, we're trying to highlight in society, and especially on the ground. You know, many a times what we are finding is that we have a lot of good programs, but they are very high and lofty, and they're very politically correct. But we need to be able to take them down to the ground, to the the crass places. For example, emavusweni, eHammanskraal, eSgandaf, eMamelodi. We need to be able to go to the Chisanyamas. We need to be able to go to the car washes. We need to be able to go to the pubs and the clubs. There, where we find men who have a certain belief in a cultural norm, and be able to challenge these status quos, and be able to bring about an argument which is much better and more enlightened. In that way, I think we will be able to also win the battle, because we want to categorically state that how a woman is dressed does not call an invite for you to mock, to slut shame, to body shame, to do all these things that we are seeing in society at the moment. And it needs all stakeholders, and especially men, to come on board to say, not in my name, to those who are doing all of these things. And in that way, we are going to start to win the struggle that we are waging of the misogynistic mindsets and the patriarchal stances that we as a nation have taken. And they have to be away from the just political point scoring, but it has to be real things that actually go into society, onto the ground, where every single day we can actually engage people and one another. And that way, I believe that we can actually have a winning, because like it or not, the future of this country is black and it's female, and we should partner with it, and we should make sure that we are standing in solidarity with one another, and to know that this struggle is also ours. Are we still there, guys?
Hi. Yes. Sorry, Timber. I got hi. Yes. Sorry, I got kicked out for a little, but I really would like to move on. I enjoyed your answers so much, but I think we can save more for later. I just want to get Yurisha's take on what we think is a indicator of consent through clothing. Like, how do we make sense of yes and no of sexual interest through clothing, and how do we maneuver that, especially in society trying to be more, for lack of a better term, woke, trying to understand everyone a bit better in terms of their sexuality as well, and why they dress the way that they dress. So if you could speak to consent in a little, that would be awesome. I think your mic is still off, Yurisha. No, it's still off. There's a microphone in the corner. Or someone maybe, I don't know what's happening. Hello. Okay, I think Yurisha's just gonna join us again, probably something wrong with her Zoom. And this medium that we're talking on is also another factor in what was discussing today, like Timba mentioned the avenues in which we need to get these messages out. And a lot of the times things like this have particular access that not everyone can get to, and not everyone will even reach because of their technological like barriers or disadvantagements. But yes, no, I would like to move on, and hopefully we can get Yorosha back. But yes, so just a little bit about me. I have dressed today very provocatively. And I always say, especially when we're talking about a subject like this, that it's so important to the saying, nothing about us without us. Because I feel like this topic resonates a lot with me, a young Black woman in South Africa. And I love makeup. I love dressing up the way I want to. And the insane amount of catcalls that will come with that on a daily basis. I always say, I wish I could go through specifically, I wish I had a body cam so I could count how many people stopped their cars, or how many people like fully just forgot the work that they were doing and redirected catcalling to me. And yeah, so that, I would just like to put that out there, that if you think I'm dressed provocatively, it's because I am. So it's just another cherry on top of sexual rights. Hello, Yorisha. We have you back. Are you able to unmute?
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes, we got you.
There we go.
So yes, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Norma, could you repeat your question? My screen was, there were a few shots that were just frozen, so I missed a little bit of what you said.
Okay, no worries. No, my question was around consent and how our clothing, whether we're female or male or wherever in between, can say a lot about the consent that we give, and whether we are willing or not willing to, you know, perform sexual things in a provocative way, you know, when someone's catcalling you or something like that. So I wanted you to answer how consent plays a role when it comes to dressing oneself.
Sure. Well, the one thing I've noticed is that consent has become a very tricky thing in our generation, whereas I believe before it wasn't really spoken about. Clothes cannot speak. How you dress cannot consent. It takes a sound mind to verbalize your consent or your discontent. I think this thing about clothes and the perception we create, how we dress, how we talk, etc. I think those beliefs are built in by the societies we come from. And just to share Temba's sentiments, our society is largely patriarchal. And so we're going to get those kind of reinforcements that inform our belief system and have us look at ourselves and have men judge us for it.
Definitely, most definitely. And the one point that I did want to bring up in this conversation today is how it starts from such deep roots, and it starts essentially from when we're born. I think about, like, you know, gender reveals, and then the blue and the pink already sectioning off which group falls into which, and if you don't fall into either, then you're not normal. And then you get to high school, and high school is all uniforms, and how those are sexualized as well. And how I went to an all-girls school, so there were no boys around to be looking anyway, but when there were boys around, best believe we were all you know, hicking up our skirts and pushing our boobies down so that they could see, like, very much indoctrinated, this is how I'm going to track the other sex situation. So I completely agree with your answer. I see that Samkele has joined us, another panelist. Samkele, if you can just shout when you're ready, and maybe switch on your camera so the folks can see you. Hi. Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine. Hi, Samkele, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm good, Nomandla. Thank you so much for your patience. I must
Absolutely no
hear.
stress. I was waiting for you to come through so that I could introduce you, Shem. I wanted to give you some time.
Yeah. Okay, let me just start the video. There you go.
Okay. Hi.
Hi, everyone.
So just for everyone to have a little introduction for Samkele, she is an activist. For which chapter? I forgot which chapter you're a part of. I know it's university.
Amnesty International UKZN student chapter.
Is it? Yeah. UKZN. Yes, I thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay. So yes, Samkele is an activist studying a BA Law and Political Science. And she graduated, come through, as well as human rights and a gender activist. It's so great to have you here, Samkele. We're just talking about basically dress and how a dress code in any sense, things that you decide to put on your body, especially as a femme body in South Africa, how it's basically a political statement, because you will be policed at one point or another in terms of what you have on your body and why, as well as notes on men and society in general learning and unlearning things, so that we can move forward as a society and understand our history while trying to move forward. But the one question I wanted to ask to you is, what do you think of the current state of just societal norms around feminine, like dressing? You know what I mean? Like, what are the norms and how are they slightly harmful / slightly empowering? Because there's a lot of empowering that goes behind when someone puts on clothes that are provocative in a sense. So I just want to know your thoughts on what you think about that.
Okay. Okay. Well, firstly, to start off, I'd like to greet everybody that is watching, that is listening. And I'd like to further apologize for being so late with the load shedding. Network is such an issue. But overall, I am really happy to be here for this kind of platform. I love conversation because I do believe that a constant exchange like this in a free and a safe space is really what can, be an effective catalyst in society. So, dressing, I listened a bit to Miss Singh talking about how really dress has absolutely and says absolutely nothing about consent. That's one thing. The way that I dress, what it is that I wear, what it is that I choose not to wear, has absolutely nothing with saying that yes, I want to be sexually violated, or yes, I want to be sexually harassed. In fact, what I would like to say to that is that all the fact that we live in this society that says that this is how you're supposed to be in order to avoid that happening is, in fact, it rests on a foundation of a myth on its own. It rests on a foundation, and I took the time to check out what a myth actually is, and it says that a myth is a belief, is an idea, it is widely known, but it is false. So the reason why it would end up becoming so empowering to wear what would be perceived in society as provocative is because actually, for the first time, perhaps in a really long while, you are able to finally express yourself in the way that you want to express yourself without being afraid that, oh my gosh, I'm going to walk outside and somebody is going to think that, oh, okay, because I'm wearing this boob tube dress, that suddenly I'm saying yes to them speaking to me even, or saying yes to them even going as further as to sexually harassing me. In fact, it is a myth in itself to even suggest that that whole argument is false. To even suggest that it would be the clothes that would inspire, or that would influence somebody to end up raping somebody else is not true, because we know of incidences where an 8-month-old baby will be raped. Now you tell me what could possibly be so provocative about a romper? What could possibly be so provocative about a little innocent baby? So it says to me that the problem in this current society is that we are looking at every other thing that we can possibly look for to try and deal with the fact that we are the ones that need to change. So I'll leave it there for now, because I understand this is just an intro.
Sorry, I just had to. Because actually, no, very, 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 very true. Like, I cannot express to you how much I resonate with what you're saying, and I'm sure everyone else, because it is an abomination to think that something can really just be so definitive when human nature is not supposed to work like that. People are not supposed to have sexual implications and act on them. That's not right. And a lot of the time it's made the norm, like, oh yes, my bustier does mean yes, please come talk to me, blah 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 blah. No, I want to be alone. I want to have maybe my own cocktail at the party and not be bothered by anyone. But it's just not like that. And it's upsetting, but I completely agree with you. The myth is debunked. Actually, let's debunk the myth. The first half an hour, let's actually debunk it, because it's incorrect in every way, shape, and form. But yes, this is a safe space, I would just like to say, for everyone. So you can drop comments if you want to drop comments, drop experiences and stories and situations if you would like to, but we're just going to carry on with a few more questions. So I'd like to unpack maybe a dress code, or what we call dress code these days, like smart casual, fancy dress, blah, 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 blah. And how school and business-wise, there is a cloud of heteronormativity when it comes to dressing in those certain places. Like a female who, let's say, identifies as female, is a lesbian and is Black, wearing possibly a suit to a formal event is now all of a sudden implications to her sexuality, implications to her job and what she might do for a living, and implications also to her genitalia. And that's the part, I think, where a lot of she was asking for it gets missed, because we stop focusing on the general femme aspect, because that's really what's being attacked, is the male gaze. The male gaze is being fed by all of these notions of, yes, that short skirt, yes, that bra, yes, that lipstick. So I think I'd like to redirect a question to Themba, maybe ask you, what do you think about dress code in terms of its history, maybe, and where it is, where it's been, and where it's going? And yeah, that would be great if you could unpack that. I hope I made sense also. If not, I can clarify. Themba. Hello. Okay, maybe Themba's not here. Yarusha, can you maybe take on this question? I'll read it again. It says, unpack dress code and discuss how it leads to men into believing that women want to be sexually violated, and so on and so forth. How does dress code play a role in sexual violence as well? Your mic again, Yarusha, I'm so sorry.
Guys, oh, so sorry. Can you hear me?
Oh, Themba's back. Hi.
Yes.
Hi. No, it's right. No, it's sharp. It's okay. No, we know the struggle. Do you mind? Do you want to take the question, or should I give it to
All right.
Yorisha?
No, that's fine. I think we can go on with it.
Okay.
And from
Thanks,
understanding,
Yorisha.
you were saying what role dress code plays.
Meeting.
Yes, basically, what role dress code plays in how men see an invitation to sexual violence.
Right. Okay. I think the answer is twofold, especially in my humble opinion. As we spoke about, socialization as a people, especially in the African context or in the religious context, that we grow up being taught or believing that how a woman dresses actually says a lot about herself. And these are um, things that we grew up with, understanding that, for example, if she's going to be wearing miniskirts and revealing clothes, she is presenting herself in a slut-like manner, and she's calling on um, men or people to actually see her and in that view. However, times are changing. Not only that, the truth of the matter is that we've come to find out that it's not necessarily so. And it is something that we obviously have to do a lot of educating around. Um, Also, us we, as activists especially need to be able to preach the message in a way that we can be able to win our people and teach them the right way of thinking and seeing things around. So a lot of education needs to go into it. You remember a few years ago where the lady went through the Brie taxi rank wearing a miniskirt, and the taxi drivers and the operators, really started harassing her and so on. And it had to take women to come back to the taxi rank, led by some other activists, also in miniskirts, and men to also join them to say, how I'm dressed is not an invitation for you to catcall and to make, defamatory comments towards me as a person. I am a human being just as you are. Thomas Sankara teaches us that the emancipation of women is a fundamental human right. It's not something that we should be doing for point scoring or trying to
Yes.
sound clever or so on. It is a fundamental human right, and we need to be able to teach society that a society that is only free in terms of the franchise, or perhaps economically, is not 100% free until the other half of its population is free to be able to walk in the streets at any time the way they feel that they are comfortable and so on. And so yes, dress code unfortunately still does play a major role, and the struggle continues for us as activists to continue to teach people the difference between right and wrong there. And it is a uphill struggle because, as I say, socialization, whether it be religious, whether it be cultural, whether it just be norms that we have in society, and they are there. And it's going to take people who are perhaps a little bit more enlightened to teach and also act, and not be ashamed, as you are, Nomandla, right now. A lot of people will be saying, hey, I wouldn't be able to come on a Zoom meeting, you know. So we need to be able to really um, do and practice. And when we do that, we are able then to educate more people.
Definitely. No, I agree 100%, Timba. Definitely 100%. Yorisha, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, I do. In fact, when we talk about society, let's not leave out media marketing and how women are sexualized. So you have these companies always portraying sexy lingerie and linking that to sexuality. We have the porn industry. We have so many things in our society. So as much, it's not that much cultural or religious. I think this is an international challenge, mostly because this is, it is community, it's society, and it will take an entire shift in humanity to change something like that. And it starts with this. But I just wanted to elaborate on what society is, and to understand that construct will help us to identify how widespread the belief runs through.
Definitely. Yes, no, I completely understand. Especially when like discussing the international feminism, because feminist issues take a lot of definitions, like continent to continent, and especially in a South African context, while there is that social, cultural aspect, there's also just that globalized notion of what femalehood is, basically. So I completely agree with that sentiment. That also that cultural societal narrative, while there's a lot of heteronormativity, or rather toxic masculinity behind it, I feel like there's also a rooted toxic femininity aspect into it as well, and how females perpetuate this harmful stereotypes of, oh, you're a slut because of this, oh, you're a prude because of this. Yeah, that can be our next topic, basically, is just why do women themselves put on such pressure to either, you know, like you've heard the term slay queen, you've heard the term like couch potato, ratchet. Why are these terms so harmful and hurtful to some people? Because, you know, other people are just trying to live their lives. I know that I'm just trying to live my life, and then another gogo can see me on the street and be like, whoa, Lesana, she is a slut, you know? So how do we make sense of this? How do we educate ourselves as well as like a community around us? Because men know what to do. Since we've been having this conversation since 2018, 2019, men know exactly what they need to do now. But it's also that femme aspect that needs to be drawn upon as well. Like even within the gay community, how bisexual women are not gay or not lesbian because they do not emulate a butch facade that has been stereotyped to mean I am a butch lesbian. And it's all those labels and those intersectionalities that people forget, I think, that really harm our society. So Samkele, I'd like you to take on this question, if you could, just about how did we get here, basically? How did it all start out this way? Samkele, are you here still? Okay, I think she has been kicked out. If she's been kicked out, I'm sure she'll come back. I'm positive she'll come back. But yes, so if we could just unpack that conversation, because it's a lot of toxicness, toxic femininity. I know it's not really a question, a term, but how do we combat that? I think, Eurisha, if you could speak to that from a female perspective, or someone who identifies as a woman, if you could talk to that, maybe.
Norma, I picked up on 3 questions. Which one are you speaking about? Which one are you referring to?
I'm sorry. Okay, no, let me be more specific. I'm just speaking about how essentially dress and presentation can be toxic in the female community as well as the LGBTQIA community? That's my question.
So I think when it comes to females liberating themselves from this generational, whatever it is, that's at our doorstep, and we've got to change it up. It starts with us, how we value ourselves, the worth we play on ourselves, um, being authentically ourselves, not I need to wear this to attract attention. I need to look like this to attract this kind of lifestyle or this kind of man, because that thinking is so false. It absolutely takes the value from who you are as a person to what you can do for another person. So I think it starts with us, Norma. I mean, where else, how else will the shifts begin? It really starts with us. And women, we keep on saying this, we keep on saying women need to lift each other up and whatever. But the reality is we are tearing each other down on social media. We are picking on each other's body parts. Your lips are to this, your eyes are to that. How are we going to do this if we don't come together, see that our society needs reform, start walking the talk and lifting each other up and lifting, I've watched an interview with, it was Oprah's, she was interviewing all these amazing women around the world. And one of the people she interviewed was Michelle Obama. And I love Michelle Obama. And I thought, how amazing if every woman could find that strength, that Michelle Obama strength within herself, the value that they will add to this planet, the value that they would add to their societies and their families will be so immense. It will be an utter game changer. And if we can adopt that kind of mindset and look up to those kind of role models, slowly our society would get to a point where I think we would be able to change it, and we won't have to pass this down to our daughters and granddaughters.
That is beautiful. I was close to tears. That is completely correct in my experience, at least from what I felt in my immediate society. And just to understand that one thing that you just said is that the way that I'm dressed is not a yes or no or maybe, it's nothing, because I haven't talked to you. I don't know you, you don't know me. And it's this information that I'm giving you here just maybe indicates the kind of person I am and who I want to be and how I want to present myself. It has absolutely nothing to do with you. And I want that to become the norm, especially in schools, because a lot of violence in terms of dress I found was in school. And the 4 fingers above the knee rule in terms of the skirt and how short it can be, and how much skin can be showing when you're wearing your swimming costume. And if your swimming costume is too small, you need to get the extra large or the modest version for students. And it's a whole list in the code of conduct that's basically formed around identity and how we define ourselves. And I've always said this, that dress, like how you dress on the outside, is your self-love. This is the love that you want to show yourself today. And if you want to be in like a full beat, or you're a boy and you want to wear a skirt today because you feel it's really hot, that's that self-love that you're giving to yourself, and you deserve that for you. And if someone, actually no one deserves to interrupt that, because it's you, it's your truth, and it's how you want to live your life. And I feel like that's not happening enough, especially in schools. But I think it's just baby steps right now in terms of the conversation of consent and what consent means, and who can give consent, and when consent can be taken away and given again, and all these different things. So yeah, I think that's my thought, at least my take on what we need to be doing, what we should be doing. But our last sort of question, and then we're going to move on to Q&A from all the people, is basically what I just talked about, confirmed consent. What is confirmed consent? What is unsaid consent? And how do we decipher between the two? Confirmed consent, in my opinion, I'm not a gender studies major, but I know this for a fact. Consent is spelled Y-E-S, and there is no other consent that can be given besides the words Y-E-S. Not no, not maybe, not later, not, oh yeah, maybe if you buy me McDonald's. None of that. It's yes. You know what I mean? Like it's not a beat about the bush situation. There is nothing to miscommunicate because that is the answer. Y-E-S, yes. And a lot of victims, or rather survivors, I like to use the word survivors rather than victims, because victims are the ones that we've lost. Victims are the ones that we can't get back. Survivors are the ones that are here fighting the good fight every day. And with survivors, I think the word no is really triggering, because a lot of campaigns and a lot of people will be like, oh yeah, just say no, and I said no, and no, 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 no. But no doesn't mean anything to a perpetrator. No means absolutely nothing to a perpetrator. It's about how we are able at the end of the day to protect ourselves, and if we have the bravery to report it, how that's going to be taken as well, how that second pair of eyes looking into that situation is going to be like, oh, wow, look at your alcohol blood level is what, and dun, dun, dun. And, it's a vicious cycle. And Samkele, maybe since you're back, if you can talk to reporting sexual harassment, sexual assault, and how dress code plays this role of judge, jury, and executioner that no one asked for. If you could just speak to that, that'd be awesome. And unmute yourself.
My word, I have to apologize again. I have to apologize again for the terrible network. With this load shedding, our network cuts off completely.
Ooh, no stress. Sorry, girl.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, with reporting, first of all, by the time it gets to the part where you're supposed to say no, or where you say no, it's too late, because, like you said, in the mind of the perpetrator, all of these myths have built up and become a knowledge or a wisdom that guides them into believing that what they are doing is within their right, what they are doing is right. So that's the first part. So we live in this kind of society that believes this, that believes that, okay, by the way that I'm dressed, it makes me, it justifies me being a victim. So if I were to get raped, then wearing a mini skirt, it would take weeks for me to even deal with trying to get out of this mindset that, oh, actually, the reason why I was raped, I brought it on myself because of the way that I dressed. This then answers that question that people commonly ask on, why did you wait so long before you could report it? Because there's such a buildup. You start by working through all of this mess, this mess of society constructs that has said to you as the victim that no, this is something that you brought upon yourself. And two, right onto the moment that you get into the police station and you want to report it. First of all, policemen, policewomen, people that work in the police station are humans. So they too are susceptible to these damaging constructs that we have in society. So by the time you get to the man and tell them that, hi, listen, I was raped, they'll say, oh, what did you expect? You're drunk, one. Two, look at the way that you're dressed. Some people, I know some people have worse stories where they would even go as far as to say that the policeman went on to rape them again, you know. So that just goes to prove that it is it is almost a danger zone living in, I don't want to say in South Africa, because I know that this is something that is prevalent in the world. But it is almost like you're living in danger zone constantly. And what is making one danger zone is these myths, because they have become the fabric of society. They have become the fabric of what is understood to be normal. It is the people. This is a second point, another point. I don't know if it's a second one, but it's another one. But I want to say that it is the people who make the law. It is the people who make morality, right? So way before it gets into the constitutional courts, it starts off in the courts of society. That's where it begins. And it will become, it's like, it seems like there's really a missing link for us to say that, no, the law is not doing what it's supposed to do. When the whole way through, before it gets into like the justice system, we have been enabling, you know, such norms, saying that they are okay, raising children, you know, that will go on, raising little boys, raising little girls. And then we expect that at some point when a little girl starts growing boobs and the boy doesn't know how to manage their hormones and they're teenagers, then we say, no, why did you do that? This is not how I raised you. But look, really, if we are honest with ourselves, is it not? Do we not applaud a little toddler when they whistle at a little girl somewhere over there? We say, oh, look at this boy, oh my word, he's
Laughing,
glowing.
ha ha. Yeah.
Exactly. Do we not laugh when somebody says, don't run like that, don't run like that, it's gay, right? Do we not laugh? Because all of these things, all of the things that we assert, all of the things that we say, no, this is right, this is correct, they all go on into being what makes me, what makes you, what makes us as a society, right? So once again, it goes back to the myth that these myths are really pillars of supporting patriarchy. They are pillars of supporting patriarchy. And when we are trying when we say we are busting the myth, we are actually doing everybody a favor. It's not just something that is for women who then become victims, but it is men as well who become victims of this patriarchy. Right. This was said really well earlier, that it is the men themselves.
Seriously. Hi. Sorry, I cut out for a bit. My network connection might not be too strong. But yes, no, Samkele, I completely agree with what you're saying, tenfold. Wow, it is really, justice is in the hands of the people, and rarely is it ever met because of a lot of our societal and cultural and religious biases. But no, that is basically the crux of what we're trying to, what we're talking about, right? The patriarchy, who puts upon all of these signs and symbols, from media to books to popular culture, who determines all of this, and how do we break it down and simplify it to a human level, and not something that is completely unattainable? Because a lot of the time I believe femininity, or at least what society is telling us, is impossible. It doesn't exist, and it's completely unattainable, because we are all human beings and we're just doing our best. Yeah, so that's what I do want to say. But now I would like to move on to some questions. Yarusha, if you're ready, there was a question for you earlier. It's from Lutano Vilagazi, and it says, what are some of the ways that the law in South Africa and SORMA, SORMA, fail to protect women when it comes to consent? Is the law better than it was, and can it be improved? If you'd like to answer that.
Well, I'm not a criminal lawyer, but I will share as much as I can about this. Yes, you must remember the law, the justice system, and government is a reflection of the norms in society. So as society grew, so did the laws, and as society ascended, or I can't think of the word right now, but as we transformed, so did the justice system, so did government. The laws today are very, very, it's changed so much in that it gives victims more protection. Not always the case, but majority of the time, this is what the law does. It's enforcement that sort of undermines the law because it can't keep up with the demand or that it has to supply to the country. So
Yeah.
I think to a large extent, victims are given more protection. They are given more say in terms of actual court cases and, where magistrates and judges have pronounced on actual consent, where that was a factor. I've never been a part of, but this is what I know about criminal law, is that it's necessary. The court doesn't take what a person wore, or but if they would take, she said no, but you still did it.
Mm.
I hope that answers the question.
I'm sure Lutando can respond in the group if in the chat room if she wants to respond. But that was a consolidating response. Because I was confused about the question, but I definitely understand the answer. So I'll just read some comments and then we can speak on them. Melusi Dlamini says, society is primarily patriarchy. Patriarchy has a rigid definition of womanhood. Anyone that deviates from the definition is a slut. Sluts don't deserve human decency. This results in violence in different forms. Sluts have no right to consent. I'm using slut here for lack of a better word and to convey what I'm trying to say. I fully agree. And that, I think, also speaks to Amber Rose has a slut walk that she does each year. And basically it embodies the word slut and turns it on its head and uses it for something empowering, something that means like independence and freedom and all of these different things. And my sister actually taught me something. She was like, you can be an intellectual hoe sometimes. Like think of Megan Thee Stallion, right? Megan Thee Stallion is an embodied woman. She knows exactly who she is and she does not apologize for it. And in her lyrics, while there are those vulgar reclaims back to rap and what rap was built on, the body and the everything about women, there is that pseudo-intellectual twist on what Megan says. And she really is out here for the girls, empowering the girls and the gays, making sure they know exactly who they are through being a slut, through being a whore. So I fully endorse that. And I love that comment, obviously. Would you guys like to comment on anything like that, or comments about it in any way? Do we have any sluts in the house? Never mind.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. We love to see it. Yes. Okay, we have two more questions here. One is from Aloande. It says, how do we respectfully educate older generations in respecting all different dress codes that women have the right to take on? Thank you. I'm not sure if Temba is still here. He might be gone, but Samkele, maybe you could answer that one. How do we respectfully educate older generations?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I do have to apologize again for this terrible network. But first of all, I'm going to keep apologizing because it's wow. But okay, but the first thing is this. A lot of the time I've noticed that with engagements with people, whether we're speaking with like people with conservative upbringings, people who don't understand the whole concept of women empowerment and a woman being free and the LGBTI, that when those exchanges happen between a so-called woke person, it ends up in an argument because it seems that we are trying to, with that one exchange, suddenly undo all of the constructs that they've been brought up with, you see. So I think, and I've seen that it has come to dilute the cause and has ended up making it an us versus them. Yet essentially we all need each other in order to deal with this, with this monster of patriarchy. So how do you respectfully speak with them on that particular matter? You just, speaking from my own experience, we just ask questions. It's like, okay, do you realize though, how I see it is that it seems that there's a double standard in this. You have a particular way that you want men to act and a particular way that you want women to act, and speak about the impact that it's having on society. Because for as far as they understand it and as they perceive it that the conceptions that they have are what is necessary in order for there to be order in society, you see. So then you just start pointing out that, okay, but look at the damage that these traditional conceptions are causing in today's age, because we are the result of those conceptions. Yes, I saw a question pop up asking about at what age do we start speaking to kids. I say as soon as there's an opportunity to teach them something. You know, these are things that kids aren't born homophobic or racist. So as soon as a child asks, okay, first, like, don't say things like, don't run like you're gay, don't run like a woman, don't run like a girl, because you automatically create an impression that those things are lowly, and then they grow up to understand that it is right to be rude, to discriminate against, against those people. So as soon as there's a chance, just allow them to be themselves. Yeah, I'm no parent, but I'm just, that is just what I think.
I fully agree. And also I have to say that same, I'm no parent. I don't know anything about raising children. I know nothing of taking care of another human being. But there are ways in order to expand thinking, expand realities also. Yes, no, we have some more questions coming in. So there was one from the Tando. It says, where is the line between sexual freedom and expression and harmful stereotypes around women's sexualities? Example, the porn industry, as Yorisha mentioned. I'm not sure if Yorisha is still here. I can't see her. But maybe I can, or maybe Samkele, if you'd like to take over that question. Where's the line between sexual freedom and expression and harmful stereotypes? As we were talking about people like Megan Thee Stallion, people like Nicki Minaj, how do we decipher between, wow, that's disrespectful, and, oh yes, I'm empowered and I'll be wearing my booty shorts tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that is quite challenging. It is a challenging a challenge. There's a challenge. It's just challenging to be on either side of the line. But the key thing is it's all about self-determination. Ultimately, the right that we are speaking about here is that we are saying that regardless of sexuality, regardless of race, if we run out of the topic, but we are saying that every single person should have the right to determine for themselves how it is that they want to express themselves, for as long as, of
Mm,
course, it is not harmful to another person. So that is all I really think it's about. If we look at that line, whatever activity, whatever whatever I'm doing, I should not be not allowed to do something just because you don't think, just because somebody else doesn't like it, you know, just because somebody else doesn't like it because
yeah,
of where they grew
yeah.
up, you know. And I think that is what democracy is supposed to be about. We are trying here to say that, hey, we are all human, and we all have a right
Mm,
to determine the way that we lead ourselves. So it is understandable that, of course, there will be contrast. We won't see eye to eye, but it was just being okay that we don't see eye to eye. That, all right, I don't agree with you, but let's agree to disagree. It does not need. It
mm,
should not. It should not lead to a place where you ultimately force somebody else to walk, your own walk, your walking your own journey, you know.
exactly.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. We all have our own understanding and own definitions and own um right and wrong. Like I always say, or my mom always says, that common sense is not common to everyone. Common sense, sometimes you got to fight for it, because your common sense may be completely different to someone else's common sense. And I completely agree with that. And two more points that I'd like to do before we do our closing statement and closing thoughts is, here Lebo has asked, what age do you think is best to start talking to children about these issues? And to follow on, there has been a lot of debates around content pertaining to consent and matters of the LGBTQA plus community, and children being too young to expose to these issues. I would like to give my understanding of when we should start talking about this, and then maybe Samkele, as our last panelist, if you can give us your take on it as well. But for me, consent and these conversations of sexuality, these conversations of right and wrong, don't touch me there, that's my no square, all of that, that can start as early as possible. In my opinion, it can start as early as possible to build into that child's vocabulary. It needs to be constantly resonant that, oh yes, girl, boy, and okay, maybe other, yellow, what. I think straying away from the binary, understanding these words, but also making sure that the words aren't harmful, that the words are not going to traumatize or re-traumatize any kids. So I always say, during the Uyinene protests and all of that, when we were going around school to school as Amnesty International at UCT, we were going around school to school, confronting and conversationizing these kids about what consent is, what harassment versus violence is, what misconduct is. For the grades 9 and younger, we said we're not going to use the rape word. We're not going to use that word, because that word can be triggering and harmful and very provocative. And kids might take it home, and then, the parents don't exactly know what they agree to. And then they're like, why are you teaching me, my kid, that word, blah, 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 blah. They don't need to know that. And that's also another factor, parental consent. When you're teaching a large group of kids, parental consent is always needed, or guardian consent is always needed. And then a censorship of words, I feel, can be implemented. But once someone is in at least grade 9 or grade 10, they know what consent is. They know right from wrong. They might not know the actual definition, but they know what that is. Samkele, if you have any ideas on that, yeah, the
Okay.
age to start
So,
talking.
I mean, once again, I'm not a parent, so I'm really not one to advise on how. I think that really goes a long way. It really goes a long way to understanding the responsibility. I mean, I can understand it in my mind, but I don't really have the experience of what it takes to raise a child. But,
Yeah.
I think one of the ways, I mean, it's going to make me sound old when I say it like this, but I grew up in a time where I grew up in a time
Okay.
where um, where like just sexual reproductive health wasn't exactly a comfortable topic to speak about. But what we had was that at school,
Yeah.
away from our parents, we had that at school. We could discuss these things at school, right? So I think that that could be a way. That could be a way. But the other thing is also to say that it will forever be an uncomfortable conversation for us to have with children. Okay, I would imagine that would be an uncomfortable conversation for me to have with my children for as long as it was an uncomfortable conversation, or it was an uncomfortable ground for me as a person. So it won't be as difficult for me to explain it to my 5, 6, 7 year old, my child, if I have a good understanding, of things. So I think the starting point would be educate yourself on things, understand, you know, educate yourself, get, try to understand from a perspective that says, okay, how does this work? You're right. Ask the stupid questions, get them answered, and and really try to understand more than trying to hear what different kinds of education has to say, and wanting to to throw judgment on that. I think there's a big gap in between that. There's a big gap in
Yeah, I fully agree. This is actually that probably is like the best way to sum up this whole conversation, I think. Is that education is the key. Education is the only thing that will save us from ourselves, save us from harming other people or offending other people. It's education as early as possible, in my opinion. We have a few more comments here, and then in a few, like 2 minutes, we're gonna sign off, say goodbye, maybe provide some take home, little exercises or little things that we can do to make sure that we're not being prejudiced off of
sorry.
dress code. But
Could I just
yeah,
please say yes, I'm
please
sorry.
do.
I'm going to take this opportunity because with the constant network cuts, there are a lot of things that I would have wanted to say but couldn't say. So I want first of all to just put out there that we are talking about these myths. We are talking about the system that is obviously really breaking us down as individuals, that is really tearing us apart as communities altogether. And you know, I know that there is still an ongoing debate going on between um like men and girls. So then it would end up being a conversation that says, yeah, but you guys, yes, but you guys do this. That first of all, the enemy here
Yeah.
is patriarchy. The enemy here is
Period.
patriarchy. The reason we all need to fall into this thing of saying, no, patriarchy must fall, is because a man is not able to fully embrace his humanhood because of patriarchy. A woman is afraid of being victimized every single day. Victimization is normalized because of patriarchy. And these myths that we speak of, they enable that patriarchy. So that is to say that it is not just men. Women are not off the hook because we know in communities where they have continued to be enablers. Somebody will be beaten, somebody will be abused in whatever way, and it will be the woman in that household that will say, no, you keep quiet about this, right?
Yeah.
So this is why we're saying that patriarchy is the ultimate issue that we need to deal with. There's the ultimate issue, and we need to spread this message far and wide, because it is not a fight that is just for that that group that you log on to, where you log on
Yeah,
to Amnesty on Zoom, it is a fight that every single person needs to fight, and it starts in a home. It starts in a
definitely.
home. It starts with how we converse with one another, what we assert, what we reject in our conversations. It continues with
Yes.
then what we teach our children, because it will be them. And I say our children as though, I'm a mother or something, but no, but I mean, I have nieces, I have nephews, and they look up to me and they say, okay, Sam is going to know, Aunt Sam is going to know. And what I say
Yeah.
to them is what they will hold to be true, because I spoke to them from a point of authority. You see, this
Mm.
is something that has to go to the churches, that there are a lot of things that have been misinterpreted, in order to support this monster of patriarchy. So it
Definitely.
means every single person, it is the responsibility of every single individual to question, to question, to bust all of these issues, all of these myths, and say that no, this
Mythbusters.
is, yeah, exactly. We are mythbusters. So being a mythbuster is not something that those people with yellow and black t-shirts, do. It's something that we
Yeah.
all need to do today, every single day.
Every day, every day. And that's also a point for anyone who might not have gone through sexual violence, sexual harassment, assault in any way, is that your allyship is a daily fight. Your allyship is evident in you talking to your mother about anything political. Because I read something the other day that was said, women that claim not to be politicians are not serious, because you were born a woman, therefore you are born a politician. You are born
Exactly.
someone that
Exactly.
is meant to defy and change and radicalize every single aspect of the patriarchy that
Mm,
decides to pull you down. So
yeah.
I completely agree with that. We are running out of time, so just one more question, and I think this is probably the most important question that we're going to tackle today, is how do we keep conversations like these going in our townships and local spaces? And for me, my or a cop-out answer that I could give maybe is national messaging. And national messaging has really changed throughout since Uyinene, let me just be honest. It's very much shifted. End domestic silence, end domestic end GBV. Even Pick and Pay is getting into it. Even Checkers is getting into it with their bags. It's like, it's something that us as society, as students, as student activists, yes, we can take into our homes, but we must also be aware that other people are going to try to take these conversations into their homes and meet such with violence, with beatings, with all these, like I've had stories during the protest of how girls would go home, say that they were assaulted by the cousin, and then they get beat because, oh no, why are you spreading lies like this, and at such a time where your cousin is trying to do his best, and blah 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 blah. There's so much of that cloud surrounding it, and it's so hard, I think, especially for young feminists and people against femicide today who are from townships, to try infiltrate those spaces. And Paul, would you like to add to what we are saying, please? I saw your hand up, Paul. You can't hide.
Oh, hi, Norma and everyone.
Hi.
I'm just agreeing with
Yes.
everything that you just said right now, because I grew up in a township and I was assaulted by my cousin, and the family tried to make sure that they hid everything from the community from knowing, and people from school, and they victimized me even more for speaking out. So it's still a struggle for people from the township to educate our families on this topic.
No, I see. I feel you. And thank you for sharing, by the way. I'm so sorry for what you had to go through. But as survivors, I'm not even quite sure. A lot of these questions that we're asking also are very hypothetical. They are very 2025 questions, like let's achieve this by this kind of question. Because I'll be very honest with you, and I feel the same, for the way that family, the actual family is built up. That's how you'll find your ins and outs. Because for someone who, you know, has a family from the townships, but maybe has a gay cousin, or maybe has gay family, or family that lives alternative lifestyles in whatever alternative way, it's sort of, it's wholesome to know that there are families out there that actually support and back you the whole way. And without making it too racial, families of color struggle with this the most. In my experience, this is just absolutely the it. Like, and even in white families, if you can find even the people that are so willing to accept you, sure, that's great. But in Black families, you best believe, honey, that is a 10-year battle that I know some other people are still closeted from their families, earning incomes, and they're still closeted, still unable to live their truth, speak their truth. And yeah, that is just a generational pain that us as Gen Z, millennials, whoever we are, have to work through, have to push every day. There is an agenda that we need to push every day, of end domestic violence, interrupt GBV, all these different things. So all I want to say is that, yeah, we are the only ones that can change society around us. Lebo Mashile, a famous poet, always said, we are the people we've been waiting for, which is exactly correct. We are the people we've been waiting for. We are the politicians. We are the economic advisors. We are the ministers. We are everything that we've dreamed of. And that's also one thing that I forgot to say today. I don't let them win. Because if you let them win, if you stay at home and do nothing because, oh no, I look so nice, but I don't want to get catcalled, I don't want to get stolen, I don't want to get robbed from. If you win, if you let that happen to you, if you let that type of defeat take over your life, then they've won completely. And for me, I never let them win. I'll feel like I've defeated in my soul of souls when, you know, when you're being catcalled from a car, thinking that you're about to be stolen. But in my heart of hearts, I know today is not going to be my day. Too many people have gone through this to not come out the other side, and I will not be one of those people. You will not win. You will not have a hold over me today. And I think that's the main message I think we can all take away from this conversation together. Would anyone else like to just speak up, put up your hand, speak your mind? That'd be fine. Samkele, if you'd like to give some ending remarks as our last panelist, because load shedding is that gal. So you're our last panelist, if you can just sign off for us, and yeah, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing I'd say that I hadn't said. Well, first, really, if somebody is here and they have been violated and they are stuck in a situation where they don't know how to get out of, please feel free. I know I'm not sorry. I'm not the facilitator, but it's just, this is an opportunity that if somebody really is, you know, doesn't know who else to speak to, please feel free to reach out to any one of us here, and we will do our best to do the best that we can. But in the final notes, I just want to speak to maybe a gentleman out there who's wondering, why would I want to sabotage a system that works for me? Mine is to say that the system is not working for anybody. The system is turning our fathers, our brothers into perpetrators, into people that we are afraid of. It's making animals out of people that we know, out of people that we love. And it is certainly not working for any of the women in the society, because every day you walk out, you think 6 times about the outfit that you're wearing. You have to fight off people trying to grab you and speak to you by force. And that is so normal that we don't even characterize it as as being harassed. So by saying that we are the mythbusters, how do we break that? How do we bust all of these things? We converse, we study, we converse, we study, we converse, and we change. That is how we will be able to move society forward, by a continuous exchange of radical ideas.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I completely agree. I completely agree. And I'm honestly grateful for moments like these, times like these, in such a isolated space where we can all really come together and remember exactly why we're activists, exactly what our work is, and or an aspect of our work and what we need to do in order to achieve it. But yes, there's some really great notes on consent from Asa if you'd like to skim through them in the chats, but I'll just read the highlights. It says consent is given freely. I'll just read the headings. Consent is informed. Consent is specific. Consent is reversible. That is one thing that I taught some kids in the beginnings, and they were like, wait, what do you mean consent is reversible? What do you mean? Like, I can just like be naked and then say no? And I'm like, yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes.
Yeah.
You know? And it's such a,
never
especially, right? And especially when you're a first year and you're just getting used to now having sex and the whole, sexual life and blah, blah, blah. Babe, you have so much power that you don't even know. You could get up and walk out, period. Like, you could just leave if you want to. So yes, consent is reversible. Consent is enthusiastic. Consent, and I'll read this one. The question is not whether a person says no, but whether they say yes, or otherwise actively express consent in a variety of verbal and non-verbal ways. This is what is called yes means yes. I don't know doesn't mean consent. Period. Poo. So yeah, that is the crux of what we're talking about, and I really hope everyone engaging today, thank you so much for joining us. If you have any other thoughts, please feel free to tweet Amnesty South Africa. Please feel free to email anyone on Amnesty from Amnesty International UKZN, NMU, VITS, UCT, me, I'm available. As Samkele said, if there's anyone that does actually need help with this, like psychologically, financially, if you know of anyone that's being harmed by sexual violence in any type of way, we're not exclusively that group, but we can be that group, and we definitely should be. But yes, I would just like to thank Samkele and thank you, Yarisha and Temba, for joining us today. Please feel free to leave your socials if you want the people to follow. I understand it. If you want some followers up in there, drop your Instagrizzle and we will get back to you. I don't know, I'm waffling at this point, but thank you so much for everyone joining, and I hope we can have another fruitful conversation like this again. Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. Cool. Mwah. Love you. Stay safe. Bye.